What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to another oil painting video here on my YouTube channel. So as usual, I am applying a tone of paint to this panel. This is a cotton canvas panel, and these brushes are kept in a container of linseed oil, so I don't really have to add any paint to it. It kind of always has some kind of paint on it. So this is just black raw umber and whatever was on this brush when I put it in the container of linseed oil. What I want is to just cover it with some kind of gray brown, and I'm going to use this to draw on and to paint. Wet on wet technique a la prima. Hope everybody had a great weekend. In case you missed it, we uploaded a shorter video on YouTube on Saturday, and if I know how to use the internet, I uploaded a YouTube short featuring one of the videos from last week. I'm not sure if that even uploaded, but anyway, hope everybody's doing well, and surfaces evenly spread now. Good enough to work on. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw. I like to use raw umber and black. So the model will be placed somewhere over here. This is a portrait slash figurative painting. There's going to be an environment, some landscape in the background, some little flowers and all kinds of interesting stuff here. So shoulder, model's resting on something, and one hand is going to fit there. There's a chair that the model is resting on, and the shoulder is leaning that way, elbow, hand down here. So you already get a sense of the gesture, the pose that the model is in. The face is going to be another tiny face. Head is going to fit somewhere over there. Hair is going to be there. Hey Celeste, welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. Some of us are happy it's Monday. Some of us are hating life right now because it's Monday. Hopefully we are enjoying Monday. The hair is going to fit over here. Shadow side of the face over there. Clothing. The model has a skirt kind of thing over here. Now I'm using a reference that I cannot show. Even though it is a copyright-free reference, doesn't mean it's copyright-free forever. Even if it says it's copyright-free forever. Anyway, I'm not going to get involved with that. I'm going to edit the picture anyway, so some of this is going to be imagination, some of it is going to be reference. Arm over there, dark for the shirt that the model is wearing. What did I do on Friday? Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was supposed to stream. I went to the doctor's on Friday. Had a little procedure for my foot, which didn't go too well. So I was not really in the best mindset to stream. So apologize for that. But we're back here today doing our thing. Okay, so there's the block in. There's a little shadow shape in the background. It's important to have the background somewhat sketched out. There's going to be a part of the dress that the model's wearing, or skirt, I guess, over there. And I think it's about good for that. Now let's just go ahead and paint stuff. Yeah, sorry I couldn't be there Friday. Dark shape for the hair. Another dark shape over here. the environment. Yeah, no worries, no worries. I'm glad I'm back. Everything will be better in time. So there's gonna be a little pinkish element to the background. Of course, we are painting a spring season style painting. It's just kind of my cup of tea. I like painting people outdoors, but not necessarily in a portrait, like commission portrait looking scheme, color scheme basically. Okay, shoulder's gonna land somewhere about there. Hey Barbara, it's been a while. I'm glad you're doing, I hope you're doing well, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm glad you like the new format. Oh, so awesome. I'm glad you painted with one of the streams from last week. I think that one was Monday. I know you like these kind of fast-paced paintings, and I like them too. So I'm glad to have you here. Let's check the other camera angle for a second here. Make sure that it's connected. It's not connected. Now hold on a second here. This is the problem with the live stream format. Let me block that out for a second and then fix it if I can. Looks like it's not working. So I've had some kind of bad luck with technology. Last attempt. Okay, it's not showing up. As you see, this camera is not working. I don't really want to unplug it and plug it back in, so I'm going to ignore it for now. And I'm going to just continue painting. So we're going to block this one out too for a second. Don't worry. It's not going to, hopefully not going to be gone the entire time. I just want to make sure that it shows up. Okay. So I'm going to fix the other camera maybe during the break time. Yeah, I've had some problems with the technology today, but it'll all be okay. Hey Celeste, your sister owns a smoke shop in New Jersey. Oh, cool. Oh, that'd be awesome to have my paintings exhibited somewhere. That's cool. Thanks for helping out with that connection. I will also have, and I say I will have, but I actually do finally have some prints available, though I'm using our own printer. So Lucy had a printer for some craft fairs that she was doing in the past, and it doesn't print huge prints, but I want to frame them, or get some decent little frames for the prints. Try them out a little bit, and I can bring some of the samples during the break, and that's when I'll try to fix that camera. So again, she's wearing one of those crop tops, whatever kind of shirts. So kind of important that I indicate that right away. So I really appreciate that, Celeste. Now let's put a kind of darker element in the background over here. You'll notice I tend to do a lot with the background early on, and that's because this painting, along with every other career type painting, is something that the aesthetic matters, the finish matters. It's not just a head study. Want to be able to create prints and all that stuff. It's a lot to think about when you're starting a painting. Alright, no worries, Barbara. I'm glad you're able to join and say hello. I'm glad you were here. You're always welcome. There's gonna be a little shadow, darker shadow over there. We'll add some skin tone just to kind of indicate where things are gonna fit. This may look time-lapsed, but it's not. I will time-lapse it to create YouTube shorts and stuff like that later. I actually made one and kind of messed it up, but tried it out. So if you check on my YouTube page, there's a new there should be a new short. Clavicle somewhere over there. Chest and shadow. Chest and light. A little bit more light on the chest here. And that's the most we're gonna show for the chest, obviously, because YouTube. Arm somewhat matching right there. It's just gonna give us the hand. A little bit of red for the hand. This is how we draw with color. Start off the hand kind of like a mitten. This is the mitten hand technique. There you go. Gesture for the hand already indicated. And you can already tell where this painting is going. Hey Mark L, welcome, welcome. Okay, now here's the other arm. Now the shoulder is leaning. She is leaning, and let's put a little mark there for the chair that she's leaning on. This hand is like that. There's a little bit of light on this part of the hand. There's a lot of light on the top plane of this hand right there. So establishing the light right away is kind of vital. The rest of the hand in mitten form. Now we see where that hand is going to fit. Dress or skirt or whatever the heck we're going to call it that the model is wearing. Angle of the hip. Her weight is mostly on this leg. So that's going to give us the angle. A little bit of skin tone for model's belly button area. That's kind of important for this crop top look. And I'm gonna have to adjust the shape for this crop top, whatever the heck it's called. So there's the belly button. Tad bit of light showing there. On the rib cage, somewhat of an orangey hue for the reflection here. Now we're going to adjust the crop top. Lots of phthalo blue to push the color and the light in relation to the color of the shadow. Again, as it gives us this angle. A little bit of a color note for the chest, somewhat of a gray, not that color, maybe something like that, yes, darker, warmer. And we're throwing down these color notes really quickly because we're going to want to adjust the shapes as we go. Okay, shoulder over there. The elbow lands somewhere right over there. Gives us a little bit of a different shape for the shoulder. Shadow underneath of this little collar. So that should be about good with that. Now back to the skirt, or whatever the heck we're gonna call this. There's a quite bright reddish light. There's the angle of the hip. Like I said, she's leaning on this hip here. So this gives us a nice little contrast. Dark over here. I'll leave just enough to be able to edit more stuff, so that's good for the placement for that. Now we'll use the cadmium green. Push this shape over to the left just to ensure the gesture, meaning the fact that she is leaning. And there's something darker over here, as there will be a chair over there. This can go a little further to the right relative to the model, her right, our left. Cast shadow over here from something in the background. A dark gray, hey Oling, owl design. A dark warmish gray exists somewhere over here. Kind of a dark blue over there. And you can already get the sense of light. I think you can. Sense of light that's starting to develop all in about 20 minutes. You gotta move fast. Chair that the model is leaning on. Kind of a warmish chair, kind of an old wooden chair. We'll get into the specifics of that chair later on. Old wooden chair. There's the light from that. That's what she's leaning on. Now we're gonna go back to the face. As the proportions are now starting to kind of make sense. And there's gonna be light and shadow on the head. Why my secondary camera is all busted, I don't know. It was working just fine. Literally 10 minutes before starting the stream. I don't know. Top of the hair, somewhere about there. A little bit of a reddish color for the light of the hair in the sunlight. So we can get some of the sunlight effect. Something like that. And kind of a warm brown. Darker than that. This will give us a hint of where the nose is gonna fit. And shadow plane, just like a sculpture chop. Alright, where the eyes are gonna fit. The model is looking down. So we're gonna start with that kind of demonic looking face. And then we're going to add some planes into it. So now you see that shadow is gonna get warmer. It's gonna get colder down here. Wet onto wet mixture with what was already there. Throw in a touch of warmth, a little pocket of sunlight in the shadow right over there. Mix with whatever the heck, as long as it's darker. Yep, something like that. Gonna get a different brush out. More skin tone. Let's just mix a skin tone with whatever the heck is up here. We don't care as long as it looks like a skin tone. All is good. We're gonna adjust all this stuff later. Obviously her forehead's not gonna be a million feet tall, so we're gonna paint into these shapes as we go, like that. Add more specificity as we go. A little bit of light where the nose is going to fit. Gives us the position of the face really easily. Don't have to do too much work for that. So now we've got kind of a glimpse of how the face is going to fit. Now we can add a little bit more to the background, and then we'll just start to refine the face. Add all those subtleties to the face. Now obviously there's going to be a darker area in the background. Now I will say something to you And I mean this with absolutely no disrespect to any painters out there, but I find that I lose a lot of interest in paintings that are only landscapes. So I'd rather paint these, at least this week. Let's try it this week. I'd rather paint landscapes that have people in them. This week we'll try it out. In contrast to this human painting, I'll paint a wildlife painting with some cows. I think tomorrow. I don't know. I already scheduled the entire week's worth of paintings, so check it out if you have not. Okay, so there's going to be a bridge right over here. Light planes and shadow planes. So that's going to be the top plane for the bridge. So don't judge me, or you can judge me if you want to, but there's something about just a straight up landscape that I don't like, and maybe it's just because I'm not that good with landscape. It could be, but I like to paint landscapes like this where there's things involved in it, background elements. It's just random bridge. There's no need for it to necessarily be on the top right quadrant, but we're gonna paint it anyway because I kind of feel like it. What's gonna make it a bridge is going to be the railing. So this is like a little wooden platform. Over there, there's a little bushy area behind here. So we're gonna need something dark behind here, possibly warm, and then we're gonna add the greenish light on the railing above. So I don't mean it as any disrespect to landscape painting. I do enjoy landscape painting, especially plein air, but something about just a straightforward landscape with no people in it is not something that holds my interest very long. Again, don't mean any disrespect to landscape. Push the light behind a little bit of yellow so we can push the effect of light. Also drawing the corner, the edge of the profile, and something like that. Again, giving us light. And that's going to land right there. And right above there is going to be the top plane for the bridge. Right here. Top plane for our little bridge. And I'm trying to find my own way, everyone. I mean, like, to be an artist is very difficult because you have to be yourself, but at the same time you have to make a living. So for me, just doing the straight up face portrait painting tutorial doesn't work for me. I'd rather paint something that's more interesting to me. Painting just the landscape is kind of not as interesting to me. But a landscape with a person in it adds something more. Okay, so the top of the railing. So here's the little legs for the railing, and we'll add more detail to that as we go. Oh, thanks, Celeste. It's not just me that feels that way. And I say that now, and you'll most likely see an upload soon where it's just the landscape with no people in it. And again, I mean no disrespect when I say just a landscape. Landscapes can be equally difficult to portraits and figures because it has everything to do with effect. It's like the counter. It's like the opposite of a portrait. A portrait's all about drawing, form, values, structure. all these things, and the landscape is not about that. It's not about that life. It's about composition, it's about light, it's about color, it's about paint handling and all these effects that are, pretty cool to be able to control in both portrait and landscape. So I feel like, this is the best combination of all of it. My favorite combination of all of it. So the hands are already placed. The chair, the little old wooden chair, is already in there. There's going to be a little light underneath of it. Touch of red under there just because we can. Doesn't have to be there, but we're going to put it there anyway. A little bit of light playing there. Some greenish colors here. We're able to move at this speed, moving this many brushes around, because I am keeping different brushes for different things. There's going to be some leaves over here somewhere later on. So different planes. Like that. And I think we're good to jump into planes for the face. Yeah, it's more like a story when there's more stuff involved in the painting. Like there's people, there's landscape, there's still life. Now we're going to add some light planes. And again, little face that's going to have a pretty decent finish to it. So not an easy portrait to paint, but it is going to be a lot of fun to work with these shapes. Now we're going to bring some sables out. So with this technique, we're bypassing the need for a careful drawing, because we're working in planes. We are ignoring the photo reference type mentality. Yes, there is a reference that will be used to help make things up, but in the end of the day, we are going to be making things up in this painting. As Bob Ross would say, this is our world. We have complete control. And in real life, I have control over nothing more than taking out the garbage. But I don't even have control over that, because sometimes things get in the way and it's hard to walk. So you never know. Okay, so now we're going to add these planes to develop the face. Eyes and nose are going to give us the main triangle. A little bit more red for that turning plane underneath of the nose, and we're going to use this as a chop like that to create a side plane for the face. Oh, thanks, Celeste. I like planes. switching sable brushes. The only thing I don't like about keeping the brushes in the linseed oil is the linseed oil just kind of happens to find its way around. It's kind of meh. Dark for the upper lip. Throw it in there. Very simplified because we are going to edit everything. Now that we have something in there for the eyes, the nose, the mouth, now we can carve into it. As this is a tiny face, it's going to be much more difficult to move the planes around. It's going to look more, the awkward stage is going to be a little bit stronger because we are working, with some challenges when it comes to the shapes. So obviously moving these things around is going to be a challenge visually. So it's best to just plane it out. Get the big shapes out of the way as quickly as you can and work right through that. Your brushes don't get splayed by keeping them upside down in a jar. I don't know. I mean, I keep them like this and they still, I don't know. It's like the linseed oil kind of finds its way back up. I don't know how it does that or why, but it's just something weird I've noticed the past, what is this, the third week now that we've been doing these streams? It's the third week, I think, everyone. It's the third week. And I still haven't managed to break a thousand views on any of these. So, kind of struggling here. That's why I'm able to speak my mind a little more. Because I know I'm not really going to get anything from it. That many comments from it. But like I was saying in the beginning, just the standalone landscape bothers me. It doesn't hold my interest. A standalone portrait study doesn't hold my interest either. It can if, it's bright sunlight. As you see, we've been experimenting a lot with color. So, I'm telling you these things because I don't really have too many people that are going to get on the internet and get angry at me because they love landscape more than anything. And here comes this portrait painter to say something negative about landscape. And yes, I know that edge is bothering you. It's that easy to push that and draw with greenish blue shadow underneath the lower lips. A little bit of a green. Like I said, we're throwing all these shapes down, but we are going to refine them as we go. So don't be too nervous about it looking all kinds of weird in the beginning. Instead, embrace that stage. The start of a painting is very free, but as it starts to develop more, once it starts to look more human, assuming we're talking about painting an image of a human, now that awkward stage starts to hit, and then we're kind of worried about the way it looks. I can tell you, you might be able to tell. I don't care. It doesn't bother me the way it looks right now, because I know that what I'm doing is I'm setting it up for the shapes, for the structure. I don't care if it looks like a young Selena or if it looks like a busted version of Jennifer Lopez or something like that. I don't care. I can always adjust these shapes as I go. these shapes are going to eventually take form. But what's important is that the big picture is the priority here. And soon we're going to add more structure to the hands because we want to have a pretty good idea of where the hands and the face are going to fit relative to the torso. It's alright, it's okay. It's a decent placement for where the face is gonna fit. Obviously there's a lot more that I can do, but I'm not going to go there just yet because again we need to focus on stuff that matters, like the big picture. Big picture. Now we're going to put in some shapes for the hands. And what do you say? What do you say? We'll put in a dark for the sleeve here first. Make sure that that's where that sleeve is going to fit. Elbow is going to rest right there. Give us more of the shape for the shoulder. Don't want the shoulder to go out too far, but it did need to go out a little further. Okay. Back to the shoulder here. That sleeve shouldn't be that that shape. So we're adjusting the sleeve. And again, this is the crop top or whatever the heck you call it that the model's wearing. I'm gonna push this crop top even lower than that because YouTube. So this is the shadow shape for that. And for hand, it's actually gonna change. The position of the hand will change a little bit to about, I wanna say there. Yeah. So that's going to give us the corner of the wrist. Back to the dark shape of the shirt. So I'm just looking at shapes at this point. I'm not measuring anything, I'm reacting to the shapes. Again, we're going to lower that to about there. And we'll add more detail to it later, but placement is more important than detail. More of the chest is going to show. Hey, Paul Perry, thanks for watching from the UK. I'm glad you're enjoying the painting. Shadow side for the chest. Again, it's not going to go any lower than that because YouTube clavicle, which is going to be reddish because reflections. Okay, so this is going to, this dark here is going to move the chest. I guess the chest is okay where it is. It's going to push this cast shadow about there. And of course, since we are working on the hand, kind of funny how I'm saying I'm working on the hand, but I'm working on everything around it. It's kind of how it goes. So, boom. Like I said, it's going to be a mitten start to the hand. And we're going to chop into the mitten. There's the start of that finger there. Beginning little chop. And a darkish brown with a tad hint of maybe whatever that is, I guess red. Like I said, this is going to start like a mitten. We'll make it look like a claw, from a mitten to a claw. Pinky is going to fit somewhere behind there. And this is actually more difficult than the last sunlight, portrait of a woman in sunlight painting that we did. Which that one ended up being my favorite. I'll show you the print of that. I'm afraid to get paint on it though. There is a print of it. But I did use my wife's printer, so I can always make more. The ink is kind of expensive. Green, greenish blue for the shadow of this hand. Doesn't matter if it extends that far out. Of course, this is just for the placement and the color, and we can refine the daylights out of everything however we want. But what matters is the shapes. Lots of energy in a start like this one. Okay, like I said, there's light on this part of the hand. So make sure that that light is quite bright. In contrast to this light, we want another element right across that pushes the light. Again, big picture. Just feel out the painting, feel out the composition. It doesn't matter what the reference looks like or anything like that. Just feel out the painting. Trust me, AIs are gonna make paintings that look exactly like your paintings in under a minute pretty soon. So don't worry about anything other than just kind of being human. Enjoy the process. React to what you're looking at. Let the composition figure itself out. Like I said, I'm not holding true to any one reference. Rather, I'm kind of painting through experimentation, feel, knowledge, using anything I want to create. So don't get too technical. Don't stress out over it being too technical. Just enjoy the process. Plane changes for the mitten shape for the fingers right about here. That's a plane change for that mitten. And that's a crucial part of the composition. Hey, Hansel dog. This is a crucial part of the composition because this is where the bottom of the hand is going to fit. Now you see the hand is gonna start to take form. It's gonna be a little light for the wrist over there. And the sleeve is actually gonna roll up. Roll up the sleeve. A little bit of a greenish hue there. Pushing all these colors. Giving us a soft edge where the hand meets the corner of the sleeve, like that. Edge of the finger. And when I'm breaking apart the mitten, when I turn it into a claw, it goes from a mitten to a claw to a hand. So when I break apart the mitten to turn it into a claw, I tend to use a grouping of the fingers. Okay, now you can see that that's starting to look like a hand. So now it is in the claw form. The claw. Anybody remember where that is? Where that came from? The claw. It's a claw. Very, very old movie. Not really that old, but old relative to the internet. Something's old relative to the internet in about 6 weeks. Let's just put that out there. The internet just progresses so fast. Trends progress so fast. Content creators are born, basically feels like they're born on the internet and then they expire in a matter of weeks. But you really gotta do what you love. Keep pushing and hopefully something will work out for you. So point your finger over there. Knuckle. I really enjoy painting hands, if you can't tell. It's almost like she's pointing at something down there, and she's looking at it too. Who knows what it is? Now, the back side of the hand. There's a little bit of the crop top, whatever we're calling it, showing under here. And some of the red of this dress up here. These are very important little elements to the painting. May not seem that important, but it is. A little bit of a brighter red behind here. Gives us the form that we want. Okay, now we have the background indicated. We have the light effect indicated. We've begun to draw the face, or at least model the face. So now we're going to set up the stage so we can add structure to the face. And then of course I'm not going to forget about the background, the landscape for the background. We are going to add more sophistication to it. As you can see, our little light effect is right here. Hey Maita, welcome, welcome. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope this Monday is treating you well. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Maita, thank you, thank you. I wish I could bring my other camera in here, but it seems to not be working. I mean, I've unplugged it and plugged it back. Let's try it again. I don't know why it's not working. I've plugged it in, I've unplugged it, and it's not working. So I do really mean to say thank you. Actually, you know what? It's still not working. See, look, it's not working, right? I look like a ghost. But this is me on the camera saying hi, and thank you for the super chat. It's just the camera is not working. I don't know why it's not working, but it's not working. Thank you so much for the super chat. Oh, thank you for that comment. I'm trying with this. I'm trying. Oh yeah, I'll bring Hugo after the break. I'll bring Hugo to say hi after the break. Of course, I will do that for you. A little bit more light around the hair, and we'll refine the hair as we go. Oh no, did it freeze? Yep, it froze. I don't know why it is, everybody. Hold on a second here. But my setup is struggling. Let's try it again. Okay, so yeah, my setup is I'm struggling with my setup, but yeah, always let me know if the camera cuts out or something. Like I said, we don't really have a lot of viewers here. We haven't had too many viewers in a while, so even one of you that just lets me know if something goes wrong with the stream, or if you add a super chat or something like that, it really goes a long way. It's such a help. Like it's you're really making this possible for me to do this every day. Well, thanks for the other super chat. Oh, you're watching from Dubai. Awesome. Thanks for the other super chat, Maita. We're putting all these colors in here. All these fun little colors in the environment. Thank you, Maita. You're so generous to us. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. Sorry my other camera is not working. Some lights around here. It was working just not too long ago. But once again, thank you so much for the support. And we do have some prints now. Again, I used my wife's printer to get them started, and I want to frame them. So little elements in the background. Thank you so much for the super chat. I'm glad you like the colors. There's one thing I love pushing is color. Color in the light versus color in the shadow. Thank you, Maitha. Really means a lot to me. It's been one massive struggle trying to get my YouTube channel to survive, and really helps. The support really helps. Thank you so much. A little reflective red under the chin. We're basically setting up the stage so that we can add structure to the face. Hey Joyce, I am streaming from Virginia, Northern Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia to be specific. And it's a nice place. I'm not gonna complain about it too much, but I'd rather be back in Maryland, if you ask me. I'm glad it's a beautiful day over there in Texas. Thanks for watching from Texas. Light for the hair. We're making a little bit of a round trip around the hair. We're painting all the shapes, round trip around the face. We're painting all these surrounding shapes, knowing that when we come back from the break, we'll be able to add so much specificity on the face. It'll look like a bigger painting, at least I hope it will. And I always say this, if there's anybody in the Northern Virginia, DC area, if you want to get together, even just walk around a museum in DC or something, let me know. Like I said, I'm kind of isolated from all my artist friends, my artist communities from Maryland. There is a group that meets on Thursdays that I've been kind of neglecting going to because they have short poses. I like long poses over extended periods of weeks. I'll end up going there at some point. A little bit more light for the hair. A lot, actually. We added that highlight for the hair. And the proportion of the head should meet right there with the chest, even though that her head is turned. We can do that. You see it matches right with the line for the chest. We'll add all kinds of details here and in the background, so don't worry. Stay tuned. This is going to be action-packed painting. Okay, nothing in the shadow area because I'm leaving this little section here for all that form. Same thing here. There's going to be a lot of form for the background. So right on the money, right on the target point of which we are going to take a break. An hour has gone by, but don't worry. I'm going to play a short video for you. And we'll do the acrylic one just to show you that you can paint form in a very freeing way with acrylic as well. So I'm going to play that video for you. It's about a 7-minute video, and hopefully you enjoy it. And we will continue this one right after the break. And if I can't fix that other camera, I'm going to see if I can use my webcam. So at least I have a webcam on my laptop. So we'll be right back. Welcome to 7 minutes acrylic eye with color. This is a time lapse. So the video has been sped up so that you can watch it within approximately 7-minute time range. What you're seeing here is a black and white underpainting. Again, with acrylic paint, we're painting wet onto dry. However, the acrylic paint allows itself to work wet into wet within the time interval of about, I would say, 2 to 5 minutes until it's completely dry. So as you can see here, In contrast to the technique we use in oil paint, this is very much wet onto dry. I really recommend doing these studies of eyes because it helps you not only work with some anatomy but also different structures, such as the curvature of the eye. As you can see, there is like a sphere. It has a highlight, it has light and shadow, and it has middle tones. Now you see how we're putting in planes onto the eye socket. Now this is a very, very fast-paced video, but we have done a similar one to this in oil paint, minus the color, in real time. I just want to show that you can create these gradations with acrylic, and we have several live streams and pre-recorded videos already done on the YouTube channel that shows acrylic. This is an excellent study to do when you're trying to work on your values, and then eventually it will transition into color. Remember, if you do decide to recreate any one of the paintings done on the channel, including these fast-paced studies, please post it to your social medias with the hashtag #UpariArtist. Now we're putting in values surrounding the eyes. There's a side plane underneath of the tear duct of the eye. And now we've covered the entire surface, pretty much like a cast drawing or a cast painting. And it dries within about 5 minutes or so. Now we're pushing the darks. One thing to notice is that acrylic does dry a little bit darker in the lights, but then the darks themselves will actually fade slightly. Now that transition was done wet onto wet, which means you have to mix that value within about a 2 to 5 minute time range. Now we're pushing the darks even further. And now we're starting to add some hints of color. A little bit of brown. And now we're putting in some skin tone. And the mixtures are done on a dry palette. So I'm mixing each color as I go, and then I'm adding it directly onto the surface. Wet onto dry. Again, to show you that these types of paintings can be done with acrylic paint as well. A little bit of a warmer gray for the sclera, the white of the eye. Just like we did with the underpainting, but it's much easier to add color when you have an underlayer that has careful drawing in light and shadow. Now you see we're filling in some of the mid-tones on the upper eyelid. A little bit of a yellowish color on the side plane of the eye socket. And now we're putting more of a reddish color, kind of exaggerating color a little bit. Which you're totally allowed to do, by the way, with a quick study of an eye. Real time, this video was approximately almost an hour long. So an hour condensed into about 7 minutes, a little more than 7 minutes. Now we're rounding out the eyebrow. Notice how the eyebrows are not painted on. They're literally painted on, but they're not meant to look painted on. They have soft edges, light and shadow. Now you may have seen there that the paint in the light did dry a little bit darker, but the more layers you add, the less that effect will be. Let's just say it won't be interrupting the process. The more and more layers you add, the truer the values are going to look. The values will look more accurate. Here's last minute little color changes. A little bit of blue for the highlight on the eye. Just little last minute color adjustments on this. More light on the eyebrow. So once again, this was accelerated, but we do have a monochrome oil painting eye that was done in about 5 to 7 minutes. Of course, acrylic takes a little bit longer, but this was a fun little break time video for you to show that this can also be done with acrylic. Alrighty, so we are going to try to put this camera back again. You see it's not working. So I'm gonna put my webcam on. Usually I don't like to use it. I don't like using my laptop's webcam, but in this case, it's all I got right now. But anyway, here's Hugo, my Shiba Inu. He says hello, hello, hello. And thank you so much for the super chats, Maita. And to show everybody, we will have prints. They're not available. They won't be available for a little while because I tried to use thick paper, thicker paper than I'm supposed to with that printer. So it didn't work. So these are little samples of what the prints will look like. There will be signatures on the back. I'll sign the back side of the prints, but as you can see, this one it's got some damage because of the printer. So I will get the proper paper that's a little bit thicker, of course, to fit and frame them. And maybe I'll also have some of the watercolors for sale because they kind of look like prints, but they are original watercolors. But we'll have all that stuff soon. So yeah, I apologize for the issues with my cameras there. But again, thank you so much, Maita, for the super chats. Now let's put Hugo back outside. And we'll continue this painting. Alright, so as always, let me know if the audio and everything is working out. And we're going to zoom in to the face, and we're going to spend some time developing the face, and then we'll move towards the hands. Do I still sell stickers with our paintings? Yes, I will. Currently, I need to set that up, that machine. But yes, I will be selling stickers as well. So I'm going to try to in-house a lot of products so I can send them to you directly, as opposed to, reaching out to other companies to do it. At least that's what I'm going to try to do in the beginning. And who knows, we might move to just outsourcing them later, but I'm just gonna try to in-source them for a little while. I am going to mix up a little dark shape here so you can see at least some of the mixtures. So this will be for some darker values. This will be for some dark but not that dark values. And everything right above is going to be the lighter tones. Okay, so now let's add some more structure to the face. And again, I'm able to work in this speed because I'm using the alla prima technique. So that is, I'm painting wet onto wet, which is an accelerated approach, but it also makes paint handling a tad bit more difficult. I'm using sable brushes, but I very well could be just using cheap watercolor brushes, which I will likely switch to later on. So again, let me know if the audio and everything is working okay. I'm going to have a light brush, a middle brush, and a dark brush. Oh good, I'm glad everything's working all right. Thanks, Mark L. And again, that's the angle for the face. The head is tilted. I feel like I can get a little closer with this, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. I'll see how much more I can pan in without losing too much resolution. Let's try that for now. If it's too distorted, let me know. I can pan it back out. But some of us grew up watching painters on TV like Bob Ross, and you didn't have HD back then. Alright, let's switch to those smaller brushes, watercolor, cheap watercolor brushes, which cost probably around $1 each, if not less. These brushes, of course, they're covered in linseed oil because I keep them in linseed oil. Okay, so let's add this shape. dark red for the wing of the nose. The secret to painting detailed little faces is being able to manage your light brush and your dark brush carefully. Well, have fun in the pool, Celeste. Thanks for joining. Well, thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Celeste. Really does help out a lot. Thank you so much. Hey, Lady Death. Welcome, welcome. A little bit more structure. We'll throw in a color change, kind of a greenish color, something like that. I know you can barely see it though. And yes, you can use cheap brushes, cheap watercolor or acrylic brushes for oil painting. Just because someone may be using something more expensive doesn't mean they can't paint just as poorly as someone that's using cheaper materials. If you're using cheaper materials, doesn't mean that you're going to be painting any worse than someone that's using the expensive stuff. You see how difficult it is to paint smaller? These shapes need to be very, very precise. You know, I've toyed around with the idea of trying to do a larger painting on one of these streams, though it is going to affect the video. It's going to be a little bit more distorted, but yeah, we could try. Again, $1 brush, doing just fine. The gray one, this one is the $1 brush. This one is the $15 brush. Now, obviously, I know her eyebrows are not going to be that tall. So I will change that now. Again, I think a lot about artists like Vermeer when it comes to painting small portraits. It's not easy to do. I'm not using any mineral spirits, just safflower oil and spike lavender, but mostly safflower oil. I'm switching between light brushes and dark brushes, meaning some brushes have light paint and some brushes have dark paint. And I'll even transition between brushes with complementary colors as to not kill off the colors too much. So for example, if I have a brush that has a lot of red, then I will isolate that brush from a brush that has a lot of green. Or I'll isolate those areas where I paint. So for example here, this is going to be more of a red. If I were to paint something more green, say like a dark green over here, just for the sake of explanation, there's a bigger brush to the right that's going to have more of a green. So here's this green brush stroke. dark green right next to this dark red. And they meet right there without browning out too much. Because we switch the shapes. And I can even push this more green. Just to push the form a little bit. Same thing here. Pushing the color in the light relative to the color in the shadow. You can also just use less paint, so you can switch from a red to a green. So just by using less paint, you can prevent the colors from getting overly neutralized. And now the form on the face is starting to develop. Sternocleidomastoid, the neck muscle. Bluish reflections on the clavicle. Clavicle. A little bit more light. Right on the clavicle there, giving us more form. Now let's move back to the face. So a little bit of back and forth. There will be some teeth showing, but we'll just use a glimpse of light on the teeth. If we can show it, we might not be able to. It depends on the brush. More light for the upper lip. A little drawing adjustment for the face. We'll use this to pull out the light for the nose. So about there. A little painterly tricks. Push more of that phthalo blue on the edge of the face. Which again is a technique to push the color. Part of the shoulder will be right there. more reflected light on the neck. The angle for the jaw should get darker here. Which gives us a lot of structure for the face. That's a decent start for the structure of the face. Now we'll work our way down towards the hands. Going back to the drapery for the shirt. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll zoom you out. You can see the face is starting to develop a little bit. Get lighter on this top plane of the chest. Slightly darker, warmer. Down here. Again, clavicle. We'll use that greenish blue for reflection in the shadow. Which gives us our cast shadow on the chest. A little bit of red reflecting here, contrasting the green. Okay. Now kind of a bluish green. Bring out a darker brush. The dark shapes of the clavicle. The chest. Unify the darks. Light on the shirt here. Dark shape for underneath of the arm. Throw in kind of a reddish tone right above it. Drapery. Light for that. Cast shadow. Corner of the shirt. Elbow. So that gives us more for the drapery. Now the hair. Should pick up a little more light up here. Simplify the light planes for the hair. Dark planes for the belly button area. Dark reddish. This is for the rib cage. And I'm going to move the light for the wrist up here. A tad bit lighter. Which will make that hand a little bit wider up over here. Not by much though. Not by much. Following the center line. Again, this is the edge for the rib cage. Abdominals over here. Okay, so a tad bit of orange underneath of there. Now light for the rib cage. That's the edge of perhaps the 12th rib, or the false rib. A little bit more red underneath as that plane turns. And this will follow down towards the abdominal. Adding more light. Of course, painting wet onto wet allows us to move a little bit more freely. Still have to pay attention to the anatomy. Now we push the light with this yellow, the lemon yellow, right here. Back to the red. So now we have that plane. Of course, it's going to be orangey down here. This will push this red plane up. We'll have a dark red right on this accent. And of course from here, it's a perfect setup to get right into the hands. And we'll make this be our little edge for the pinky. So I'll zoom you into that. We'll develop that for this hand for 10 minutes, I guess. Then it'll be the next break. We went through that pretty fast. Pretty fast. Or maybe not fast enough. We shall see. Whoops. I really like developing hands like this. It's a lot of fun. So again, it goes from a, what did I call it? A mitten to a claw, and then eventually a hand. Now what makes this look claw-like is, of course, it only looks like there's 3 fingers. It's kind of funny in the beginning. I feel kind of ashamed to say this, but when I first started to learn how to draw hands, I got nervous about it and I had to count and make sure there were enough fingers. But if you work with shapes, of course, that answers itself. But of course I know to subdivide the planes. And then we're going to have the 2 fingers in the middle develop on their own. Well, you know what? While we still have to paint this loose, let's move this finger out more. Why not? It's a really fun hand. Maybe out to about there. Which will then give us more space for these middle planes. And obviously I like pushing the red for the knuckles. Pushing the green on this plane. Really appreciate all the likes, everybody. Again, the schedule for these streams, to anyone that might be new, is Monday through Friday, 1:30 p.m. DC time zone. And we tend to stream all the way up until 5. So it's not a short stream by any means. So again, I much prefer paintings like this with hands and stuff in there. Hey, Jonas? I like paintings like this. As opposed to that typical, head and shoulders portrait painting tutorial, but don't worry, you'll get more of those on Saturdays. Now you see the fingers are starting to take form. I always found it kind of hilarious how gloves, when you buy gloves, any gloves, like for cleaning purposes or for whatever. You know, I have gloves over here. It's kind of funny how the pinky is always disproportionate, right? Like this is my hand, my pinky is not all the way up there. I don't know. I mean, different hands are kind of have another length for the pinky. I always find the pinky is too long on most gloves. Okay, so now the fingers are starting to take form. So we went from a mitten to a claw to a hand. And it's up to us how much we want to develop the hand. And of course the accuracy of the hand. And the color is also a thing. Contrasting between blues, grays, warm colors, cool colors. This is one of my favorite parts here though. Going from pretty blue, green to reddish, pinkish on the knuckles. And it's important to look at this from a distance. Make sure that the hand fits in. Okay, so now we'll adjust the shadow shape on the wrist a little bit more, and then we will take another break. But in case you're new to the stream, don't worry, I won't disappear. I'll have a video playing for you during the break. Let's put some reflected light on the edge of the hand. little bluish reflections for the hand. Let's get rid of this line. Again, thinking a lot about Vermeer with that. Okay. Well, now we develop the face, the hand, some of the drapery on the torso. So now we're in a good place to take another break. Again, I'll play a video for you to watch during the break. This time I'll play the oil painting one. So don't go anywhere if you don't have to. I hope you're enjoying the stream so far, and we will continue this in about 6 to 7 minutes. Welcome to What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to another break time quick 5 to 7 minute oil painting. This is just a gessoed piece of wood. It was gessoed with acrylic gesso, and now I have added a thin coat of raw umber and black using a mixture of safflower oil and spike lavender. Now we are going to use the alla prima technique to paint a 5 to 7 minute eye. We're going to start off with white. This is going to create a sphere for us, and this is going to be the eye socket area right here, and down here is going to be the corner of the eye. This is the edge of the eye socket, and now we have the entire shape for the eye socket. The tear duct will be about here. Next thing we will do is go and get the dark brush. This is going to be just black and raw umber right here. So this is going to be our tear duct, black and raw umber. This is going to be the end of the eye, and this is going to be the iris. Very simple iris shape there. And now we're going to put in the bottom plane of the upper eyelid, lower eyelid, and the top of the lower eyelid. Very simple, iconic looking eyeball shape. Next, we are going to go in with the light back towards the top of the eye, and this will give us the eyebrow right above. Nice and easy. So there's a quick little eyebrow. The tear duct is going to pick up some light, and this creates the tear bag area. And you want to work with a decent amount of paint so that you can apply different value changes, as you're seeing there, just by modifying how much pressure you put on the brush. So this is the tear duct here. See how it gets lighter? Less pressure will make this less light. And now we're going to have a little bit of light picking up on the top plane of the upper eyelid as it starts to curve around the back side of the eye there. We'll also pick up a little bit of light on the upper eyelid, and we'll also pick up a little bit of light on the top of the eye socket, which is going to create a nice gradation here. And these are just cheap pieces of wood that were gessoed with Liquitex acrylic gesso. They're cheap pieces of wood that are perfect for doing oil painting sketches such as this one. And less pressure is going to make this less bright as we work all the way towards the back side of the eye, finishing the first pass for this eye. Next thing we are going to do is add more light to the top, giving us close to our brightest light. And you can paint this in 5 to 7 minutes at home for practice. Simple practice. Now a little bit of light for the sclera. Remember, the sclera, the white of the eye, is not white, but rather some type of middle value. Now this painting is of course going to be in monochrome, meaning we're not going to add any values. But if you want to add, color, it's going to be in monochrome, which means we're not adding any color. But if you want to add color, you certainly can. But you see how much you can do without any need of color. And see how you can create this little gradation here with just white, black, and umber. And now we're going to add our darkest dark, which is going to be raw umber with a little bit of black for the pupil right there. And depending on the model, there may be some darker eyelashes, so we can add those eyelashes. The dark for the eyelashes here. And it all depends on the model. And we can adjust the eyebrows with the same brush, wet into wet. Depending on if the model has thick eyebrows, soft eyebrows, it's up to you. You can create whatever eyebrows you want. And what I want you to do is, if you can help me out and do this 5 to 7 minute study on Instagram, post it with a hashtag #UpariArtist. And this is the final light. Like I said, that's going to be the brightest light. And that is your 5 to 7 minute simple alla prima wet on wet eye. I hope you enjoyed this break time painting video. Alrighty then. Hey Gigi. Welcome, welcome. By the way, that video was from, I think, was it last week? It might be a week old now, I'm not sure. But the painting is actually dry, which surprises me because some of the other oil paintings are still wet from 2 weeks ago. And like I mentioned before, we are going to have prints, but not just yet, because I need to get the right right paper for the printer. So these are obviously too thick. You can see this got busted, so obviously I won't be selling this, but there will be prints in the future very, very soon. And of course, my watercolor studies, I'll be selling these too. It looks like a print, but it's not. It's an actual watercolor, but I'll be selling these as well. No worries, Gigi. You're always welcome at any time. So what do you say we develop the other hand? So on the other hand, let's develop that hand. And I know you want to see the color mixing. I do have that little area to the right that we'll use. And let's see here. We're gonna have a dark red in the background, which I guess you don't need to worry too much about what to use to mix it, but here it is anyway. It's just alizarin. Ooh, too much alizarin. Alizarin in black. Okay, so this might be too dark, or it might be just right. And that is about where I want that shape to go. Now we'll go in with the darks for the hands, or the fingers. Call them the phalanges. Add a little bit of orange. Knuckles. And this knuckle goes here. And the dark shapes for the fingers. So right now it's still in whatchamacallit mode. Mitten mode. It'll go from mitten to claw to hand. Now the darks around the fingers. She's holding on to this part of her dress or skirt, whatever. But we don't need to get into too many details for that. Now we'll paint in the division for the fingers. Bluish color for these parts of the phalanges. Lost a little bit of this shape. Now we'll try that again. Light on the fingers. Well, it's in the shadow, but reflected light. Part of the thumb should be sticking out from here. Little corner of the thumb. Now we're transitioning from mitten to claw, and from claw to hand by adding the rest of the fingers. She's definitely a muse for my work. I'm mostly making this person up, so I guess this is my muse. This person, I don't even know who this person is. And it's not even a person from a picture, it's mostly made up. But that's cool. That's cool. Knuckles, turning plane. reflected light for this finger. This part will be in shadow for the drapery. And again, think Vermeer. So we're going to have some plain on the drapery. Some planes for the drapery over there. Da 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 da. Planes. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a light and shadow delineation. Hooray! There we go. Drapery. More values in the drapery there as we transition from light brush to dark brush. Light brush to dark brush. Adding definition to the drapery, one plane at a time. This is why cadmium red is kind of a thing for this. A little pocket of light down here because she is grabbing the drapery. Right there. Okay. Now, bright red in sunlight. Do not add white to it because it'll go pink. Instead, you can add yellow and bring down the saturation of the red, but raise its value slightly. Not much, but just a little bit. And there you have that. And we're going to have to work the surrounding still life and landscape areas. First of all, we will work on, let's say, the chair. Why not the chair? So she's resting on something that appears to be like a chair, so we're gonna do something with that. That's gonna be the back area of the chair. Oh, you see the similarities? Yeah, I get it. It makes sense, GG. I mean, think about Caravaggio and Vermeer and Bouguereau. They tend to paint kind of the same type of face for these types of paintings. They just kind of show up. I don't know. Back side of a chair. The chair is going to have a light plane. I called it a kind of a old wood kind of chair, but now we're going to add some paint to that. I've got a light up there. Top plane for that shape here. And we're gonna give it some detail. Say there's a lift to the chair right there. And then maybe there's a cast shadow, I don't know, right here. Which, by the way, there would be a cast shadow there. And I don't know, let's say that there's some little detail to the chair. We'll do our little crisscross shapes like that. Say that there's some little texture to the chair. Little highlight areas. 1, 2, 3. However many we want to put there. The bottom plane of the chair in perspective. We're going to see some of the top plane, not hardly any of the bottom, because we should be standing as we're looking at this chair. So really only a side plane, if that, of the chair. And this is important to look at from a distance because it doesn't have to make sense close up. It really doesn't. As long as it makes sense from a distance, or as long as it doesn't stick out too much, it should be fine. A little bit of blue for this cast shadow. So it'll look like she's leaning on it. And maybe some little, I don't know, greenish areas. Some little areas that have some reflection behind here. Of course, that chair would have some little texture behind there. I don't know, we're just making this up. Should get darker under here with some perspective. Dark over there. And maybe somewhere on the bottom, little shadow. Let's say there's a reflection for the leg of the chair. Let's throw in some warm color just because warm will contrast with cool. I don't know. We'll even maybe make it somewhat shiny. Put some red here. Totally making this up. A little red over there, some red over here. Who knows why it's there? It's just there. Who knows? We're just making it up. Okay. So now there should be quite a bright plane on the chair. In perspective, indicating that we're looking down at this chair. Should only see a glimpse of the side plane. And perhaps there would be a little bit of some kind of random cast shadow. So maybe a hint of blue here. Some kind of random cast shadow on that, which of course would make this darker. And more blue. Who knows? Who really knows? Okay, next we will paint more of the environment around here. And I like this to be dark, but perhaps it could be a different a different hue. I don't know. Let's just kind of wing it. Maybe it's just too gray. Brown it out a little bit. There really doesn't need to be an explanation for it. And then maybe, I don't know, a different plane change here. And we'll use our little painterly tricks to push this in here. And then we'll switch to a different brush. Add red. Push this back out. Like that. And now we just blend the shape a little bit like that. And we're just adding these planes. Not for any real reason, but just to kind of create something extra in the composition. By no real reason, I mean, it's not trying to explain anything. It's just a feel of, I guess, air over here. So I do want to paint more for the background. And then maybe a hint of light here. I don't know why, just some kind of hint of light. I don't really know why. I just want to put that there. Keep that red brush handy. And then, I don't know why here, but some yellow. Put whatever's on the brush into the mix. Don't even need to clean the brush. Just let the brush kind of do its thing. And let that carry over to this adjacent side. And not adjacent like cosine, sine, tangent, and arctangent. Adjacent as in right next to it. And we're working our way up towards more of a structured plane, right? So this is just grassy areas that don't really need to have much definition at all, other than perspective, meaning it should have plane changes as we move across the distance. But this is an area that is more demanding of our understanding of straight lines. So right around here, we'll use this. It's just another canvas as a T-square. As we start to add definition to this painting. Okay, so this is a distant plane right behind here. And this is a plane approaching us. And I did mention I wanted there to be a shadow over here. So we're going to add that back in, but now let the brush strokes kind of hint at the grassy areas. And just use the wet on wet painting technique to just smudge out this edge. But we'll add a color to it So we're mixing the edge right on the surface. Which creates more texture, which is not necessarily what I want. I don't want too much texture. So I'm gonna just let this kind of blend out somewhat. And again, composition is not something you can really teach someone, but it's something that is unique to everybody. Now, obviously, there's rules like 3/4 rule and stuff like that. That's more textbook. But beyond that, beyond the 3/4 rule and things like that, there's so much feel that goes into composing. Different planes and blades of grass. Maybe we'll throw in some skin tone there. Not for any real reason, but just because we feel like it. Okay, so now there will be some planes in the background. Again, this is our little division, right, for the planes. But this can be a side plane. And for who knows what. But the value itself will create a side plane. And again, there's a little bridge that goes, and I guess it curves somewhere into the distance. I don't know why we're going to have this little bridge there, but let's say that it curves, and it'll end, I don't know, it'll curve somewhere back there is where that bridge is going to go. Why? I don't know. Where is it going? You tell me. I don't know. But we're putting that in perspective. That much we do know. So where is this bridge going? You tell me. I don't really know. I just paint the thing. A distant plane. Back there, and obviously there will be those greenish railings. And because it's going away in the distance, it's going to shrink as it goes down there, and it will reach a point, say somewhere over here, where there will be more trees to block the destination. So this is just a way to create more planes. So everything just gets kind of blurry out there. And again, that railing will be right there. Tad bit of light green, but not too much because it is in perspective. The bridge to, what is that? I don't even know what that one means. Again, it's in perspective. So it's going all the way out there. And it's framing the model. Right? So this is a way to paint the landscape and create depth in the landscape, but it's also a way to frame the model. Now there's going to be light planes over here, Any color you want. Doesn't matter, you choose how you want those planes to look. And then maybe there'll be a little light for our destination. Again, to frame the model and to show that it really doesn't have to make sense. This really doesn't have to make sense. This is our world. And we can do whatever we want. Again, whatever we want. As long as we put planes in there. Hey, Paul. The term it cost me an arm and leg came from a cost your portrait painted in the 17th century. It costs you more if you had the hands. Yep, that sounds about right. It takes a lot more time to paint the hands in there. I totally believe that. I totally believe that. Let's paint some distant stuff in the background. And let's use the blue. Whatever this is going to be, I don't know. Could be a mountain. Could be a distant tree. All I know is it's not going to be that blue. There we go. Who knows what it's going to be? Nobody really knows. But we're painting it in there. We're painting it in there with conviction. We are not afraid to make whatever strange decisions in the painting. So again, we're going to blur this as it goes back there. And continue to push the light. This pinkish yellowy light. And you tell me whatever is going on there. I don't know. Getting a glimpse into my world. My brain is trying to escape. I've been quite unhappy with life the past, I don't know, couple years. So I'm painting my own little escape, just like I have been explaining before. Painting is your world. So have fun with it. Your world. Tad bit more yellow. Back here, just because we can. We'll really get to describe a different world here. Pretty neat. And of course, once we have all our fun with the background, we'll jump back into the structure for the face. Oh, thanks, DG. You're always welcome into my little world. And everybody here is always welcome. This crazy little world I'm creating. And I always have to keep composition in mind. I don't want to go too far with any of these little adjustments, additions. Yes, she is not holding a cell phone. That was the last thing I would do, is paint her holding a cell phone. But it would be interesting to put something in her hand. But, nah. I don't know what I would put there. A little more of a glow around the face. Taking a selfie. Definitely not taking a selfie. Definitely not taking a selfie. Okay, now we will zoom into the face, get the smaller brushes out, enjoy our last, I don't know, 40 minutes, which will go by quickly. These are fast paced, even though it's 3 hours long, 3.5 hours long. It's quite accelerated painting, if you ask me. Oh, and my palette is all over the place. Okay, first thing I want to do is address this shadow is now too dark. Oh, thanks, Gigi. Now, what I wanted to do all along, something I don't do often, is let the hair cover part of the face. Don't want to cover all of the face, obviously, but let these planes cover some areas. Portrait contest in the limit of 3 hours. I mean, I would like to enter. That would be fun. Little curls for the hair. Maybe that's what it takes for me to get to paint with people. I have to be in competitions. different planes for the curls of the hair. Reddish accents because why not? So we're getting there. Very unique type of environment. You'll notice how I'll continue to evolve with these videos. Again, this is the goal, you know, not to be tied down by commissions, but rather just paint what you want to paint and hope that you'll be able to market, do something with it. Just having fun with the hair at this point. Not really doing anything specific. We'll blur this edge out a little bit. We're going to add some reflection to the back of the hair. Kind of, I guess, from the blue sky or whatever. Something. And I'm adjusting the hair. It still has kind of an 80s look to it, but let's face it, I know nothing about fashion. But one thing I do kind of realize is every decade pretty much tries to keep up with what was done in the 80s. Seems like the 80s was like kind of that era where everything is kind of based off of. So just adjusting it slightly. Like I said, I know nothing about fashion. I myself just pretty much just wear a plain t-shirt most of the time. Some bluish reflections. Well, that was fun. Now we can zoom out. So it's a tad bit more for the face. Now we can adjust some interesting concepts in the composition. And I'd rather do this because the composition is so important. And I feel like these darks, just out of a matter of feel, I feel like these darks are gonna compete with this. So I'm going to have to adjust them. And it's all a matter of feel. Nothing to do with anything other than just feel. And that pathway over here was just eliminated. So I closed off my path to over there. So let's just turn this into a bench or something. Or I might even eliminate it altogether. So this all needs to get lighter, in my opinion. Your natural, very loose. The Farrah was prominent trend in 1970s, early 1980s. I guess maybe that's what this hairstyle is. I don't know. I was gonna put some little like tree branches here, so if I can manage to adjust the background a little bit, I will put something else back there. But first, let's just adjust this. So I know that these values are too too dark and too distinct. So we're gonna have to blur things out, but not lose them completely. I guess we'll just turn this into a bench. I wanted it to be some kind of bridge of some sort, but we'll turn it into a bench. And all of that stuff was way too light. A letter in her hand. We could put a letter in her hand. That's a possibility. Now this one has to remain darker, but I can lighten it like that just a touch. And now this one was way too much attention. It was taking up way too much attention. Again, I'm adjusting the background in terms of value and kind of in terms of edges too. I didn't think about that, but I am softening things, as you see there. But yeah, we can put a letter in her hand. Not sure what the letter is going to say. Letter's going to say, Dear Universe, teach you Pari how to paint backgrounds, will you? Just a matter of feel. Now I feel like that brings more attention back to the face, back towards the central figure. Just can't have the background compete too much. There's a fine line between just right and too much. You wrote, received sad news, and that's why she might be in a downcast. Possibly. That's one explanation for the letter. Of course, as I say that, we gotta paint it first. Yeah, so these values and these were sticking out a little bit too much before. So I had to adjust them. I had to. They were taking up too much space. And this has to work from a distance. It has to work from a distance because that's how people will see the painting first from a distance. Okay, so we can put a letter in there. We've got enough time to make some stuff up, so we could do that. But first, the glow. Paint the glow back in here. Man, I really needed a bigger palette. Look at this mess. I needed a bigger palette for this. There we go. Put in that glow. And for what? Nobody knows. Okay, so a letter in her hand. Of course, it'll have to be somewhat of a... But see how it makes sense. It brings more illumination to the face. And even though the background's kind of this make-believe thing, it's quite painterly, it still kind of works somehow. How? I don't know. It still kind of works. Okay, so a letter in her hand. Man, we've got two hands to choose from. Putting the letter here kind of makes sense, but at the same time, that's going to distract a little bit more than I want. But putting the letter on this hand, maybe here, like right off to the edge, might make more sense in terms of composition. Of course, let's assume she's right-handed, so she was holding the letter with her right hand and just decided to lean on this chair in this magical world and decided, well, that's not good. So let's do that. ¿Por qué no? ¿Por qué no? Start off with the dark part of the letter. We'll be doing a bright blue. light planes for this letter. And then real quickly, we're gonna have to adjust the finger so that it's actually holding the letter. These two fingers will adjust. Which will push this out into the light a tad bit more because it's being pushed. And now there will be planes, light planes, right here. Where she's grabbing the paper. Shadow planes here. Little folds. There's our little folds for the paper. And light. So she really didn't like the letters, so she kind of folded the crap out of it. And of course there would be a little, need some blue here. There'd be a little glimpse of light right there, right across from that shadow. Which will create a concave shape. Shadow first, then the light. We'll see what this is looking like from a distance. You can see it's not taking up too much from the composition. And that's the point. We're adding something still life wise. We don't want it to take up too much. And then I'm gonna make a decision. I think it's too big. I'm gonna cut some of it out. Like that. This is just thinking on the fly. There, we put that fold back in the clothing. So if there ever was any need for proof that I make stuff up in these paintings, this is it. So Janice asked me to put a letter in her hand, so we just made this letter up. You too can make anything you want up as long as you follow light and shadow. Just like that. Light and shadow shapes. And make sure that whatever you make up fits your composition. Yep, no problem. Hopefully the piece of paper doesn't stick out too much. There, now it doesn't stick out quite as much. And it makes sense now in the composition that she would be holding something. It adds some kind of narrative to it. So thanks for the idea, Janice. Took a little bit of convincing, but we got it. Last but not least, for that letter, there should be a cast shadow right underneath, right there. Whoops. That blue was not supposed to be there. Something like that. You've got mail. There we go. Okay. Now we can go back for the final, I guess, 9 minutes. We can work on the face a little bit longer, or the shapes surrounding the face. And let's get to this cast shadow on the chest. It's a little ambiguous. Just a tad bit ambiguous. Man, I really needed a bigger palette for this one. There we go. The cast shadow needs to frame whatever it's casting, even if it's in some kind of distortion and perspective. Of course, this one shadow should be a little more blue. Not too much. Just like that. I don't want the clavicle to take up that much attention. So blur it slightly. Now the sternocleidomastoid is being confused with this light plane from the hair. So we'll differentiate them now by just taking that light out. Little plane changes here and there. There should be some more reflected light on the chest. I'll be careful with that shape. You don't want anything in the light to be confused with anything in the shadow. And that's as far as we can push that without it being confused with the shadow. Okay. Now moving down, this might be too red. I'll adjust those colors as we go. Oh, there's a bench. Not a bench, there's a chair to the right that she's using. There is a chair. Final 5 minutes. No 6-pack. No 6-pack. Though we can put some little abdominals here. Not much. Just a glimpse of the abdominals. Just a tiny glimpse. Hey Celeste, yep, still here. You joined the final 4 minutes. Just a little something for the abdominal. Man, I was all over the place with the palette today. Look at that. Yeah, you did. You made it right at the end. So, let's see. I guess a tad bit more light on the nose, but really not much. I don't want that much here. Almost nothing. Add this eyebrow back. Or a glimpse of it. Keep the eyebrows raised, which creates kind of a somber look. That's what we were going for. Oh, thanks, Gigi. Alrighty, I think we're pretty much there. Just a few little edges now that stick out that I don't want to stick out. Like this one. Something like that. And maybe some more reflection for the hair. Hey Celeste, it's a challenge to paint the face this small, but you can do it. You can do it. Just focus on shapes. Any last minute little things. And of course you could do this and eventually paint the entire painting out. So it's important to accept the spontaneity of the painting. Don't paint every little thing out. Don't soften every little thing and don't delineate every little thing. Sometimes you gotta leave room for mystery. A Dear John letter? Who knows? Okay. So that was fun. We got to make up some stuff for the background. And like I said, there will be some prints of these paintings available soon once I get the right paper. So this got messed up, so this won't be available. Obviously, this got messed up. But I'm going to try to get the right paper for my printer, or Lucy's printer, I should say. But there will be some prints available of my paintings at some point soon. Different products for these paintings. Vermeer did simplify a lot, and that's what we did. Simplified a lot of stuff. So let's go ahead now. Sign the painting. I already know where I'm going to sign it. At whatever she's looking at over here. the sadness of whatever. We'll put the signature over there just because. Right, correct. There is a juxtapose between the expression and the colors of the painting. I'm pretty happy though with the speed. I guess we're getting a little bit more efficient with these paintings. Let's go ahead and sign it near the letter. If this were a bigger painting, I'd sign it on the letter. just a makeshift 2 and a 5. For the year. It's one of my favorite areas though, painting hands like that. Probably should, maybe I should fix this. It can be loose, but not too loose. Alright, so now there is a signature, which makes it an officially finished oil painting from me. There's a lot of painterly stuff going on here, like this and that and things like that that people would normally blur out. But I'm trying to be a little bit looser with these paintings, but at the same time push the realism. So a fun little contrast between these things. But hopefully everyone enjoyed. Again, thank you so much for the super chats. Let's zoom back into the face. So hopefully YouTube puts this down as the thumbnail. So remember the schedule for these live streams, Monday through Friday, 1:30 p.m. DC time zone, and we paint all the way until 5. So thank you so much for watching. I wish you the best, and I'll see you again next time.